Okay, it's over. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I will tell you that we got progression for most storylines and most characters. We got that. We got good wrestling in the beginning and the ending of the show. In between was questionable, but it did promote some progression. And then there's wrestling that just looked damn sloppy. Just gonna say it. But I'm not gonna tell you couldn't watch this show and say, okay, it was not that bad. It was fun a bit. A little more fun than you think. Better than SmackDown, obviously. And mostly better than Raw. Because from what I saw, Raw wasn't that great either. SmackDown and Raw right now, they're on autopilot. We're really not getting much from them until we get past Crown Jewel, which is coming on this Saturday. But I'm going to tell you this. On NXT, at least they progressed what they needed to progress. That's more than what Raw has progressed. Opening, tables, ladders, and chairs, which is tables, ladders, and scares, Carrillo, Angel Garza, his cousin, and the Creeds. I'm not going to tell you this is a bad match because it was a good match. It was a good match. But there's a big question. Is this the last match for the Creeds? Because we've seen them debut on Raw. Like when it came to Dragon Lee. Dragon Lee has now begun his transition. I don't know if he's going to go back to NXT maybe once in a while. But he's on Raw now. So the question is, was this the last match for the Creeds? And did they just bury Carrillo and Garza, who's just trying to reconstruct themselves with these claw marks on their chest, reminding themselves of their grandfather? Because they're both grandsons of the same guy. They're not brothers, they're cousins, they grew up like brothers. But did they get buried now? Because if this was the last match for the Creeds on NXT, did they just bury Carrillo and Garza for the Creeds? As far as I can tell, yeah. The question is, how badly buried are Garza and Carrillo? That's going to be the big question. Can they rebuild themselves from this? Because they've been needing to progress since they were trying to straighten out the storyline. But now, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be straightened out because they had something in the memory of their grandfather and a claw mark supposed to meaning something. But here, I don't know. Moving on. North American title match. Frazier, Nathan versus Dirty Dom. Now here's the thing. We have Mommy by ringside. And let's make it clear Dom was going to win. And I knew he was going to win. He's not going to lose to Frazier. I'm sorry, he's not. But here's a problem. When you watch the match, if anybody says that was a perfect match, it was not. It was botchy. Either it was Frazier who was botchy, or it was Dom who was botchy. You got Nathan Frazier, who's a much faster wrestler than Dominic. If anyone loves Dominic, I'm not against you. Because Dominic is a good wrestler. But if you compare Dominic Mysterio to Nathan Frazier, Nathan's a much more faster-paced wrestler. And that's a major issue when it comes to Nathan Frazier. He doesn't know how to slow down. There are points in a match where sometimes you need to be slower. Sometimes you need to slow down, like Pac, or Pac, as I like to call him, Pac. He is one of the quintessential best high-flying, high-impact wrestlers from Europe. He understands, after being in WWE for so many years, he understands how to slow down when it's necessary and how to speed up or at least play to the crowd when it's needed. Nathan Frazier doesn't seem to understand that yet. He doesn't understand how to slow down. Dominic being on the main roster, I'm not telling he's a great wrestler because he was already ready to go on the main roster. He was not. His character sucked and his wrestling was not there yet. Now he's reached a point where it's polished enough that he's more than acceptable. But he's a slower paced wrestler. Like his father at this point in his career. He's not a super fast wrestler when it comes to Ray. And on top of that, let's make it clear. On the main roster, a lot of wrestlers are not fast-paced wrestlers. Some of them are in between. And Dom has catered himself to what, at the time, Vince McMahon believed was necessary. Let's make this clear. Vince may not be in control. And it doesn't matter if Triple H is in control. It don't matter if even Bruce Pritchard is in control. But Dom was trained during the time when Vince was in control of creative. And he was influenced by that. And his ring style is influenced through that next to his dad. He's not a fast wrestler. He can be good when he wants to, very good in certain points, but now he's going up against a wrestler who's much faster than him, who does not understand how to slow down. And Dom, who can be botchy, let's make it clear, he's still a botch fest when he's not careful. That's what we got here. And I'm sure people would say, oh, it was a great match. No, it was not. At one point, when you saw that Dom was supposed to kick Nathan Frazier into the ropes, he literally jumped right over him, over his back. And Nathan, I'll say, at least tried to sell it, but it was obvious he didn't even touch him. There you go. Now, before I get to the next match, which was the Breakout Star match, I got to say this when it comes to New Year's Day. When they opened, and Vampire, the song they played. Heard it last week, heard it this week. Was it a bad song? No. But I'm not going to tell you. Is it great to see that NXT is doing this? No. I'm going to be honest here. If it's a special, like a pay-per-view or premium live event, I would understand it being there. But here, as a theme, honestly, I wish they drop it. Because we wasted 4 straight minutes of Vampire from New Year's Day. I'm sorry. I'm not saying the song was bad. It wasn't. It wasn't a bad song. It wasn't a good song. It was an okay song. But we're talking about a themed NXT that only has a certain amount of minutes. I can understand them doing it on day 1, last week. But again, was dumb. You only need to do it once. You didn't need it a second time. And we wasted 4 minutes that could have been given to somebody else. Now, let's make it very clear. The next match, there was no match. We got Fallon getting destroyed by Tiffany Stratton. She just wanted to beat her up and then gave her a figure 4 in the ring post. I've seen Gail Kim do that. I've seen Victoria done that. In other words, Etera back in Impact Wrestling, soon to be TNA. I haven't made my video on Gump Report of how I feel about TNA, but I have to. You know what I mean. Wait a minute, did I? Honestly, I don't remember. I've been making so many videos, it's hard to keep up with the videos that I produce. I did do my TNA video. Sorry, I did. I'm thinking about my NWA video. I am eventually going to make my NWA video. I need to watch NWA before I even make that and decide, is it going to be good or not. I still haven't seen it. I just never find the time or the interest. But anyway, we got no match. Now, next, we got the Breakout Star match. And that was, let me give it to you like this. When you see Vice and you saw Kiana Jordan, Lola Vice. I knew she was going to win. Because the way they've been pushing her with Elektra, I really do believe they were ready for her. They want her to have that contract. Because let's make it clear, Kiana James is not ready. She ain't ready. She's not going to be ready for a while. She's only been on the roster a few months. She is not ready. And when they say that she's the most unique and one of a kind, nope. Because Sorika can do it better than she can. I'm just being honest. I look at Kiana Jordan and I look at Sorika. Sorika actually is better. And she's out still injured. I think she has a bad and torn ACL, I believe. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But Sorika, I'm saying Sorika because I hadn't thought about it so long. Sorika, who I actually liked. I actually didn't like her. But I truly believe that she needed to crank back the gymnastics and do way more wrestling. Jordan's doing the same thing. So where is the difference? There is none. It's just Sorika's taller than Kiana James. She's going to be like this. When she comes back, Sorika, you're going to see Sorika and Kiana Jordan like this. And they're going to do almost exactly the same thing except for their signature moves. You watch. You watch and see. Next match. The one I was very interested in seeing. Mrs. Stone versus Braun Breaker. Let's make this clear. I knew this was going to be basically a destroying match. It was going to happen. Maybe Stone would get maybe 1 or 2 hits in, and he did. He got like 2 hits in, which didn't really do anything. And he did get 1 roll-up, but he was annihilated by Braun. I wasn't surprised, but I knew, when is Von Wagner going to show up? Because there was no way they weren't going to let him show up. And guess what? He shows up with his head wrapped up more in a turban than my head, and I got bald head up here a little bit. I mean, I'm not totally bald. I got hair. If I take this off, you see hair there. But he's got more hair than me. But let's make it clear. Von Wagner had to show up after being gone for 2 months, I think. At least a month, 2 months. And they did show the replay of him supposedly getting bong by Braun Breaker with those steps. It was in time. He needed to do it. And at least I will say, for Von Wagner's point and part, he tried to act. After he did the fight, he's so wobbly. He's still messed up. He needs more time, but he wants the match. And now Stone's setting it up for him next week. The question is going to be, and that's my question, are they just going to let him win? Or are they going to let him continue this story where he's going to face Braun, he's going to look good, but then because his head is still injured, he's just going to drop to the floor without Vaughn doing anything, and he's down. And will he play into that? That's going to be the big question for me personally. I think that's how it should end. It should not be Von Wagner having been able to destroy a Braun Breaker. Vaughn should just get some offense in. He looks like he's going to try and throw Braun Breaker through a table, but then he gets wobbly and he hits the ground and he's done. And they leave it at that. They bring in the stretcher and he leaves. And that will give even more interest to build Von Wagner into something more. Hopefully, more sympathy. Let's move on. We get the match I knew wasn't going to go anywhere. JC James and Thea versus the tag champs. I knew they weren't going to do anything. But I will commend them that now, finally, the tag belts have been shown to NXT. Now, do I believe they're going to keep doing this? I don't know. This might be the one and only time you're going to see NXT have the tag champions there. Because the tag champions should go from Raw, SmackDown, NXT. So there'll be more people they can mess with. Because as it stands, the tag belts are a joke. And there are 2 people who are more of a joke than the tag belts. And it's not Piper Niven. And it's not Chelsea Green. Guess who it is? It is a Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. And understand, I thought they were doing something interesting with them when they weren't tag champs. I thought when they brought together, they would do more Celtic stuff together. Because they're both basically from the Isles. No. The moment they went onto the main roster, they combined the titles and just left those 2 to rot in the back. And just sit, drink, and barely have any time to even wrestle. If they've even had time to wrestle on house shows. It counts if they wrestled on house shows at all. Honestly, those 2, you might as well release them. Because they've done nothing with them. And I know there's going to be some people going to say, dude, why don't you just relax? They'll do something with Triple H. I don't trust no one until I see it. As far as I can see, the only thing they've done was bring them in as something themed like a Halloween. And they had time to use them. They should have used them on Raw or SmackDown. Because since they're not following the draft anymore, I say it again, I'll keep saying it, until the end, when they say there's never going to be a draft again, officially. You got women who have been jumping back and forth, who are not free agents, going to Raw, going to SmackDown, going to NXT, and there's supposed to be a draft where people who are supposed to be on Raw and SmackDown and NXT are not supposed to go nowhere, and the free agents are the ones that are allowed to go anywhere, and they're not doing it. So as far as I can tell, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn don't even need to stay. Release them. Give them something. If you're not going to give them anything to do, you're going to leave them in the back. Release them. And at least in 3 months they can find work somewhere else. I'm just saying. Now, they break out tournament finals. Let's make this clear. Oh, wait a minute. I just did that. Sorry. That's it. The only one left is the final match. And, what do I have to say? It was the best match of the night. Mello versus Dragunov was the best match of the night. But this wasn't about that. The match was great, just like the opening. But let's make this very clear. The only thing that mattered was what's going to happen afterward. And that is right before you get a little Mello about to do a little bit of not missing whoop, that Trick shows up. Distracts him, and he loses. And then he jumps into the ring, grabs Mello's arm, and he's staring a bullet right through him. His eyes were the rounds, and he's straightened. You know what I mean? I just sound stupid. If this was the government report, you never know what you're going to get. This is what you get. I just make terrible puns or explanations. Let's make this clear. Seeing Mello getting stared at like a laser, cutting right through him by Trick. Question's going to be, what's next? And then you see Dragunov attacked by Baron Corbin. That we already know. But here, I will tell you this. When you see Trick Williams with Carmelo, it would have been better with a title. Let's make this clear. Trick should be going after a title from his best friend, Carmelo Hayes. That's just the truth. If you're going to make it important, make it important. If Dragunov hadn't been given the title, I think by either Crown Jewel or Survivor Series, Trick Williams gets that shot. And I know people are going to say, dude, are you crazy? No. If you're going to do something, if it wasn't here, it could have been at Crown Jewel or at Survivor Series. Let them be in the opening contest at the kickoff, since they won't do it unless, maybe they will. If they do the opening contest, let the NXT title be up for grabs between Trick and Mello, because the story's there. We know sooner or later Trick must go to the main event because they don't have a lot of people there. And Carmelo Hayes needs to go to the main roster. Let him put his buddy over. In fact, he should have already been put over because Carmelo Hayes should have already been on the main roster months ago. He's ready. He's been ready for 4 years. 3 to 4 years at least. I'd say last year he could have gone to the main roster. He seemed to be ready. This year he's definitely ready. But what's the problem? Why hasn't he gone to the main roster? Is it because of the transition of TKO Group Holdings? Is it because Vince is no longer there and now Triple H has to do a whole bunch along with whoever else is working with him? I don't think HBK has a problem with him staying on the show. He just has to give him something to do. And the only thing he's got to do is put over Trick Williams. That's all that's left. Getting the title back is irrelevant. Trick is now the only thing left for Carmelo Hayes to do. That's it. Carmelo must put over Trick Williams before he leaves. And Trick needs this. He's reached the point that he's over. But he really can't go any further than he is until one of two things. One, Carmelo puts him over, and then Carmelo leaves. Because as far as I can tell, if Carmelo stays, Trick will never be 100% over. He won't. Even if he wins the NXT title, he won't be 100% over. Because many people say, well, dude, let Carmelo put him over with the title. That's what I said earlier, but they didn't do it. Now the problem here is Carmelo is ready to leave. He's developed enough. Trick needs Carmelo to put him over, do a program with him, and then leave. So Trick will not have that problem of Carmelo still being there, where he'll keep having to deal with Carmelo, which will hurt Trick. Because Trick Williams needs to go away from Carmelo eventually, once he finishes the feud, because he needs to be developed. He needs to know that once Carmelo goes to the main roster, Trick can actually handle himself. But that's a big question. Now, what do I have to say about the remaining things like, well, I know I don't have to say this, what happened with Metaphor and Akira Tozawa. We know he's going to have a match, but was it funny seeing the house that Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes did last year? Let me give it to you like this. Did Jackson look good? Miss Jackson with the broken wrist look good? Yes, she did. Did she look cuter than Lash Legend? Yes, she did. Did Mansa look like an idiot? Yes, he did. And did Nolan Dar get his title back, which is his cup? Yes, from Akira Tozawa, who obviously is fine where he is. To be honest, Akira should leave. I'm telling you this. Akira Tozawa is done. He's done all he can. He will never be anything more than what he is. Now, either his contract has been renewed, he just can't get out, or he's fine with it and literally would rather be a joke wrestler than a real one. I don't know what it is. But we're going to have him have his match next week, which, what does that mean? Nothing. Because I don't expect him to win, and if they do let him win, what does that mean? Are we getting another 24/7 type of situation? Oh, no, please, no. Oh, I hope not. I'm hoping not. We don't get another 24/7, but it's just me. And if I'm forgetting anything, I'm leaving it alone like Joe Gacy. I'm not saying anything until I see what they're going to do next week. I know I can't talk about him. I'm not talking about him. I'm leaving it. And even Walk in the Mud, I'm leaving that along with Joe Gacy. See how they're going to develop these guys. Because if Vidpacks are good, but it counts on what they do next. Peace.